भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिके। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 29, the talks between Narada Muni and King Prachina Barhi. Mudit Krishna Prabhu, till where we have covered?
Yes, Prabhuji, only 2 verses, 71, 72.
Thank you. 72, 73, right?
Yeah, 73.
Yes, okay. So hopefully I'm slightly better than yesterday. So this is a long chapter where we see that very detailed talk, and then there are some certain additional verses in the index also. Almost it goes to 84 verses, and then 2 more, 85, 86, 87 verses. Very, very long chapter. Now, text here. Narad Muni, he continues with his discussion, and now he is describing, this section is about the role of the mind in the transmigration of the soul. So, when you want to transfer from one place to another, transmigration. Incidentally, in finance also, there is something called as a transmission. Transmission means, when somebody, after demise of somebody, the properties, especially the financial property, financial assets are transferred to one person to the next, to the nominees and other things. So that is also comes in transmission. So now here we see that Narad Muni explains how the senses are undeveloped, all the 10 senses, and the mind is active in the youth. But in the womb of the mother or in the childhood, they remain covered just as the full moon is not visible in the dark moon night. What an analogy, right? So, in the youth, the senses and the mind, they are visible, but they are not developed. Okay. So, they remain covered. And the analogy is just like the moon is not visible on the Amavasya day. That doesn't mean moon has gone, right? Moon is still there, as brilliant as moon is, but only thing, it is covered from our vision. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada describes that there is a child in the womb, and his gross body and 10 senses, and and the mind, they are slowly developing. They are not yet fully developed. At a mature time, when the development takes place, and the senses become active, right? And senses, they take on the activity, especially in the youth, and progressively they will, diminish in power when the senses are used throughout the life. And at the end of the life, the senses become literally powerless. The living entity is unable to fulfill the desires, and it's a time for new set of senses. A new set of senses will be developed through the developed subtle body. So this is how the transmigration is taking place. Srila Prabhupada writes last three lines of this purport. Unless the senses of the gross body are developed, they will not act on the subtle body. Similarly, because of the absence of the desires in the subtle body, there is no development of the gross body. So, when we purify our desires, when the desires are towards the service of the Supreme Lord, then what happens automatically is that, uh, because the subtle body is purified, there is no question of gross body. Correct. And then the person goes back home, back to Godhead. Text 73. Now, text 73 describes that how the inactive senses do not indicate a liberated state. When a living entity dreams, the sense objects are not actually present. बराबर है ना? Right. Like somebody is dreaming that, he is chased by a tiger. The tiger is not actually present. The forest is not actually present. Or somebody is dreaming, he is, gratified by something. Okay. However, because one has associated with the sense objects, they become manifest. Right. Similarly, the living entity undeveloped senses does not cease to exist materially, even though he may not be exactly in contact with the sense objects. Okay. So this is the next instruction of Narad Muni, next description how it is. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that it is sometimes said that the child is innocent, he is completely pure, and we have that song, Bacche Manke Sache. So that is not the case. What is not the case? That the same Bacche later will develop in Sattvagun, Rajogun, Tamogun. Of course, it should not minimize even a little bit our affection to the kids. That is, absolutely essential. But the point here is one should not have some stupid idea, right? People have all different types of ideas. I mean, somebody, when somebody was very small and somebody said something and it was so stupid. So, it was so, I cannot discuss this also. And it was all in a good faith and all goody goody idea, like that it was. Actually, it is not a fact, Prabhupada writes. The effects of the fruitive activities, right, reserved in the subtle body appear in three concurrent stages. So, how these results are going to appear? The results are going to appear as bija, the root, the kutastha, the desire, and then phalonmukha, about to fructify, and what in the mature stage, in the manifested stage, that is called as prarabdha. So prarabdha जो हम अभी भोग रहे हैं या फिर उपभोग रहे हैं, whatever it is, okay, right? Either we are suffering or enjoying, that is called as the manifest stage of our past fruitive activities karma. That is the manifest stage, is the prarabdha. But prarabdha, just like you will not have a tree outrightly. There will be bija, there will be kutastha, there will be phalonmukha, and then phala will come. Right. So, similarly, there is a bija karma, kutastha karma, phalonmukha karma, and prarabdha karma. These are the four stages. Prarabdha is what we are suffering right now, but there are, suffering or enjoying right now, but there are three more. What happens is that in a conscious or unconscious state, the actions of the subtle or gross bodies may not be manifested. A child may be innocent, but this does not mean that he is a liberated soul. Right? This is a very important thing to understand. Child may be, one can see, the liberated personality in the child or very cruel personality in the child, both, through the examples of, one example is Vena, who was a debauchee or rogue, that when he was playing in that play itself he used to kill other friends, and Prahlad. Right. So Prahlad Maharaj was a child but a pure devotee. Vena was a child but he was a horrible killer, serial killer, and both were children. But thinking simply child as a liberated soul is not the thing. So what it means is that we have to love people properly with knowledge. That doesn't mean that, see, any indication here, any discussion of Bhagavatam about family, this, that, it is not to, prematurely detach us from the family. It is to make us responsible and knowledgeable. This is very important thing, right? Everything is held in the reservation, and everything will become manifest in the due course of time. बच्चे आते हैं, we have seen in our BMS school, and later also I have seen in my engineering colleges previously when I was professor, that kids come first year, second year, fourth year, when they have this send off ceremony. Bapre. I mean, we used to be just there for first 10 minutes, give one bhashan, abhishek, ashirvachan bhashan kind of a thing, and just move on. You just cannot tolerate the kind of maya they will bring it with. Right. So they will eventually become manifest. And the example given here is that uh, example given here is something very different. That sometimes when we have a dream, and when we have a dream in, having a kind of a literally kind of a page three kind of a dream, and the effect of dream may be visible, right? So So now what this means is that in which the physical senses are act even when the physical objects are not manifest. Right. Physical senses are active even though the physical objects are not manifest. And this is how the whole thing is developing. Last line. Even if the reactions of the subtle and gross bodies are not manifest, one does not become free from the material conditions. Therefore, it is wrong to say that the children is as good as a liberated soul. Right. Reactions will manifest in the due course of time. So, and therefore, so what this means, say, if I have a small child, what this means for me is that I have to train the child, not simply get enamored by the innocence. Innocence is not equal to liberation, right? Innocence simply means not yet manifestation of the great personality he may be, or the otherwise one may be. And mostly, because born to a devotee parents, it will be a great personality unless there is accident like Vena, you know. So what it means is one has to love children with knowledge. It should not be a senseless, mindless love where one forgets to train the child in the name of the love or innocence. Text 74. एवं पञ्चविधं लिङ्गं त्रिवृत्षोडशविस्तृतम् एष चेतनया युक्तो जीव इत्याभिधीयते. Translation.
The five sense objects, the five sense organs, the five knowledge acquiring senses, and the mind are the 16 material expansions. These combine with the living entity and are influenced by the three modes of material nature. Thus, the existence of the conditioned soul is understood. Purport. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, Mamai Vansho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhutaha Sanatana Manashashtani Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Here it is also explained that the living entity comes in contact with the 16 material elements and is influenced by the three modes of material nature. The living entity and the combination of elements combine to form what is called Jiva Bhuta, the conditioned soul that struggles hard within the material nature. The total material existence is first agitated by the three modes of material nature, and these become the living conditions of the living entity. Thus, the subtle and gross bodies develop, and the ingredients are earth, water, fire, air, sky, and so on. According to Srila Madhavacharya, When consciousness, the living force in the heart, is agitated by the three modes of material nature, then the subtle body of the living entity, consisting of the mind, the sense objects, the five senses that acquire knowledge, and the five senses for acting in the material condition, becomes possible. Hare Krishna.
So now here we see what is the definition of the subtle body. The form which consists of the pancha pranas, right? Imam panchavidham lingam, and the three gunas, which is furnished with the 16 transformations, 10 senses, 5 plus 5, karmendriya, gyanendriya, 5 sense objects, tanmatra, and the mind, 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 1, 16, and which is endowed with the consciousness, is called as the subtle body. Right. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that manashasthani indriyani prakritisthani karshati. So there is a prakriti, the total material existence. It is agitated by the three modes of material nature. Right. And then this becomes the living conditions. Then the gross and subtle body develops, and the ingredients also develop. Ingredients are the Pancha Mahabhut and Ashtadha, the 8 elements. And when the consciousness, what is the consciousness? The living entity in the heart is agitated by the three modes of material nature, then the subtle body of the living entity, consisting of the mind and the sense objects and the five senses and everything else, right, for acting the material, becomes possible. So this is the entire sizzling that is happening, and then living entity is now ready. There are desires, there is, there are the tanmatras, there are the instruments, there are the knowledge acquiring instruments, which are the senses, and then there is abhinivesha, that I am material, paropi, manuti, anartham, abhinivesha, and then the living entity is now on the enjoyment journey. Text 75. अनेन पुरुषो देहान् उपादत्ते विमुच्यते हर्षं शोकं भयं दुःखं सुखं च अनेन विन्दति.
Translation. By virtue of the process of the subtle body, the living entity develops and gives up gross bodies. This is known as the transmigration of the soul. Thus, the soul becomes subjected to different types of so-called enjoyment, lamentation, fear, happiness, and unhappiness. Purport. According to this explanation, one can clearly understand that originally the living entity was as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his pure spiritual existence. However, when the mind becomes polluted by desires for sense gratification in the material world, the living entity drops into the material conditions as explained in this verse. Thus, he begins his material existence, which means that he transmigrates from one body to another and becomes more and more entangled in material existence. The process of Krishna consciousness by which one always thinks of Krishna is the transcendental process by which one can revert to his original spiritual existence. Devotional service means always thinking of Krishna. Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskaru mam ivashyasi satyamate pratijyane priyo simi. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my dear, very dear friend. Bhagavad Gita 18.65. One should always engage in the Lord's devotional service. As recommended in the Archana Marga, one should worship the deity in the temple and constantly offer obeisances to the spiritual master and the deity. These processes are recommended to one who actually wants to become free from material entanglement. Modern psychologists can study the actions of the mind, thinking, feeling, and willing, but they are unable to go deep into the matter. This is due to the lack of knowledge and to their not being associated with a liberated acharya. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.2, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarashyo viduha sa kalena hamahata yoge nashtah parantapa. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. Guided by so-called psychologists and philosophers, people in the modern age do not know of the activities of the subtle body and thus cannot understand what is meant by the transmigration of the soul. In these matters, we have to take the authorized statements of Bhagavad Gita 2.13. Dehino smin देहिनो से मन्यथा देहे कौमारम यौवनम जरा तथा देहांतर प्राप्ति धीरस तत्र न मुह्यति. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Unless all human society understand this important verse in Bhagavad Gita, civilization will always advance in ignorance, not in knowledge. Hare Krishna.
Now Narada
Sorry,
is explaining.
sorry for my bad pronunciation.
Oh, mine is to worse, sir. Sometimes I feel that, now though things are getting recorded and come on YouTube also. So anyway. So now here, Narada Muni explains transmigration of soul, how the transmigration of soul is happening. By the subtle body, the jiva accepts the gross body and gives them and experiences. There is a constant experience of harisham shokam bhayam dukkham sukhena chanena vindati. Okay, this is how the living entity with suffering karshati. Previous verse talks about prakriti sthani karshati, and this is the karshati. Happy, extremely happy. Miserable, so morose, sad, miserable. Right, sukham dukkham, fear. People tremble in fear. There are so many different types of fear. Happiness, unhappiness, enjoyment, lamentation. FOMO is such a regret, and FOMO are such big emotions. People really, really regret their decisions, regret. So all this is happening. This is called as, all this is a part of Prakriti Sthani Karshati. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that originally the living entity is as pure, as divya as the Supreme Lord. Right? Every soul is, essentially divine. But when the mind becomes polluted by the desire for sense gratification, what happens? That living entity gets enwrapped in the material condition. Krishna bhuliya jiv bhogavancha kare. So as soon as there is a bhogavancha, nikatastha mayatara jhapati adare. But the process of Krishna consciousness is so powerful that if one simply applies to this process, always thinking of Krishna, offering obeisances to the spiritual master and the deity, Prabhupada writes here, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyachi mam namaskuru, offering obeisances to the deity and the devotees, and especially the spiritual master. Mame vaishyasi satyam te, and this is the way to return to the Supreme Lord. So devotional service essentially means always think of Krishna. There is a very beautiful verse which says that there are many do's and don'ts, but the essence of all do's and don'ts is always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Satatam smartavyam Vishnu vismartavyam na chatuchit sarve vidhi nishedasur etayor eva kinkaraha. All the vidhi and nished is there, but all the vidhi and nished, they are kinkara. They are the servants of these two prominent rules. Satatam smartavyam Vishnu, always think of Lord Vishnu, and vismartavyam na jatuchit. One should not forget the Supreme Lord Vishnu. And thus one has to engage in the Archana Marg. But what happened is the modern Gyanis, which are the psychologists and the philosophers, they dissociated knowledge from parampara. And because they dissociated knowledge from parampara, what happened is Maya aparita jnana, their knowledge is stolen by Maya or illusion. Classic example of this was Raja Ram Mohan Roy, right? So I will not go in the history of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So, later Raja Ram Mohan Roy literally converted to another religion, Christianity, died in England. And, but when he was messing up here in India, he had this, he concocted one prayer. And the prayer was, Nirakar Tomar Charan Dekhi, And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to make such fun of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. that Nirakar Tomar, that my dear Lord, you are Nirakar Tomar Charan Dekhi, and all different types of mantras people will manufacture, or different types of dharma people will manufacture, and one has to really save oneself from all these cheaters and Prabhupada, because they are cheating people on the ultimate goal of life. People, Prabhupada used to be very strong on them. Siddhanta Saraswati, very strong on them. Hammer technique, Siddhanta Saraswati used to say. The so-called psychologists and the philosophers, they do not know the activities of the subtle body, neither they have taken shelter of the liberated Acharya, which is the path in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita describes this. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduh. Sakale neha mahata yogo nashtaha parantapa. So, following the role model is the success mantra for anything and everything. Now, please don't take my words wrong when I am going to utter the next statement, because I myself come from a PhD background and research. But the research is the ultimate futility, right? Mahajano yena gata sapantha. When we are opening a business, we approached Gaurang Prabhu, and Gaurang Prabhu said, "Oh, wow, wow, wonderful, keep doing." He has Earth Forum, and then he said, Mahajano yena gatha sapantha is applicable not only in spiritual life, it is applicable in everywhere in the life. Right? Don't try to do something innovative thing. Just emulate the success. And recently I was, reading some of the other books, like, where there is another personality who follows this very well. Okay, so we'll not go into all those details. So this is evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduh. If we give up the parampara, we will concoct something and we will just appear, fool number one, Nirakar Tomar Charan Dekhi. And, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur used to comment that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a very beautiful comment on this. That he used to say that the train of Raja Ram Mohan Rai leaves from, I don't remember that exact line, but, and doesn't go to the Vaishnava. But his parents were great devotees. Parents were very great Vaishnavas. And at the house of Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Bhaktivinoda Thakur first got introduced to Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay. And in fact, Raja Ram Mohan Roy's family, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's family, they were such great devotees that every day, dabba, the lunch, rice, dal, sabji, chapati, that dabba used to go, lunch dabba, dinner dabba used to go from the Gaudiya Math to their house, and they took only prasad. Right. Unless all human society understand this important verse in Bhagavad Gita, Dehi nosmin yatha dehe, civilization will advance only in ignorance and not in knowledge. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. So very special thanks to His Grace Mudit Krishna Prabhu, who is always there. Literally, I tell him I'm not able to conduct the class 30 seconds before, and he just continues.
Yes. Hare
So,
Krishna Prabhuji.
yes.
Just little bit of technical query I had in my mind.
Please.
Yeah, we pronounce Lord's name as Krishna.
Yeah.
But here the spelling is K-R-S-N-A. I mean, is there any rationale for that in Bhagavatam, that spelling? I mean,
No,
just
if
while
you-
reading it
correct.
struck me. I don't know whether.
So if you go to the somewhere backside of the whole this book, every book that that is there, you will get their Sanskrit pronunciation guide. So these are the
Okay,
international standards how to write kra, kru, and
okay.
those words. So I'll just
Uh-huh.
show you here. Just 1 second.
Just for my knowledge, I wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So is it visible? Switched on the video. I take it.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So you will see there Sanskrit, pronunciation guide, and there you will see that, when there is a dot below, then it is kru. When there is, N, So n and n will be different, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So yatha, a and bar on that means a.
Okay.
So that is dirgha. Okay. So if you type only yatha, it is yatha. If you type yatha bar, yatha, it becomes.
Yatha. Okay.
Now you see man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. So see a bar, you see it is all the dirgha a. Mam vaishasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Right. So evam, when it is m dot it is half mo pi. उसको पैर थोड़ा बोलते हैं, क्या बोलते हैं हिंदी में?
Adha. Yes.
Adha, yeah. So it is evam. It is like that. It is not
Exact.
yeah. Evam parampara praptam. Right. Now you see, if you see s dot below, that means it is not sh, it is sh. Shatkon wala sh. It is not shambhu wala sh.
Because there just now in that shloka. Sure. Yes. Okay. Understood.
Yeah. Okay. So it is. So similarly for the and the, it is, it will be something different. Dehinosmin will be the, and d dot will be the. It is like that. Similarly, t and the, this is also differentiated. Right?
Yes. I mean, basically because the knowledge is not there about the Sanskrit, and also the pronunciation also.
No, so because of this, what happens is all across the world, people are able to read Sanskrit shlokas of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam as fluently as a Sanskrit Pandit.
Right.
So these are called as diacritical marks. They are used in Ayurveda and many other places. Sanskrit, it's very common Sanskrit international convention.
Yes. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.